a new regulatory regime for groundwater is urgently needed. Why groundwater is being used extensively over the decades. Why urgent regulatory framework is needed for accessing groundwater. What are the salient features of Groundwater Bill 2017? Can this bill address the challenges for sustainable management of groundwater? GS Paper 2, Government Policies and Schemes. What is the context about? The water crisis India faces is of such a magnitude that urgent measures are necessary to address it. Yet, while the crisis is often discussed, law and policy measures to address it remain insufficient. This is partly due to the fact that the primary source of domestic water and irrigation is groundwater, but the media and policymakers still and often focus on surface water. This needs to change as water tables have been falling rapidly in many parts of the country, indicating that use generally exceeds replenishment. Why groundwater is being used extensively over the decades. One of the underlying reasons for excessive use of groundwater is the legal framework governing access to the resource. In the mid-19th century, landowners were given a right to access groundwater found under their land. Over the following decades, this led to a framework whereby landowners see groundwater as their own, and as a resource they can exploit without considering the need to protect and replenish it. Access to a source of groundwater has progressively become a source of power and economic gain. Why urgent regulatory framework is needed for accessing groundwater. The states that now have groundwater legislation based on the model bill conceptualized in 1970 have on the whole failed to manage to address the problem of falling water tables due to increasing use. Massive expansion in mechanical pumping led to the realization that recharge of groundwater could not keep pace with use. There is no provision in the existing legal regime to protect and conserve groundwater at the aquifer level. The present legal regime has clearly failed to address the growing multiple crises of groundwater. Now landowners are having unlimited control over groundwater, and which is dangerous for healthy water tables. Thus there is strong need for regulatory framework, which should address this issue. What are the objectives of Groundwater, Sustainable Management, Bill, 2017? The objectives of the Act include: ensure the realization of the fundamental right to life through the provision of water, meet food security, livelihoods, basic human needs, livestock and aquatic life, protect ecosystems and their biological diversity, reduce and prevent pollution and degradation of groundwater. What are the salient features of Groundwater Bill 2017? Can this bill address the challenges for sustainable management of groundwater? The Groundwater Bill, 2017 consequently proposes a different regulatory framework from the century-old, outdated, inequitable and environmentally unfriendly legal regime in place. It is based on the recognition of the unitary nature of water, the need for decentralized control over groundwater and the necessity to protect it at aquifer level. The Act proposes the demarcation of groundwater protection zones based on the latest dynamic resource assessment of the Central Groundwater Board and state agencies and the mapping of aquifers and subaquifers. The Act sees the setting up of a groundwater subcommittee under the Village Water and Sanitation Committee by the Gram Panchayat. This will be supervised by a block panchayat, which will consolidate the groundwater security plans of all Gram Panchayats in its ambit. The proposed new regime will benefit the resource, for instance through the introduction of groundwater security plans, and will benefit the overwhelming majority of people through local decision-making.